Have you ever noticed how you seem to attract the same type of partner, just with a different face? You change relationships hoping for peace, but the same arguments and the same familiar pain always seem to return. We often blame bad luck or toxic people for our broken hearts. But Buddhist wisdom reveals a much deeper truth. This repetition is not a cosmic punishment. It is karma knocking on your door, begging you to pay attention. Today, we will explore why your soul keeps choosing the same painful lessons. We will uncover how you can finally break these unconscious cycles and find the spiritual awakening you truly deserve. The illusion of randomness and karmic attraction. Most of us grow up believing a very specific fairy tale about love. We are told that out of billions of people on this earth, we simply stumble upon the right one through a mixture of luck, timing, and shared interests. We look for someone who makes us laugh, someone who shares our goals, and someone who fits perfectly into the blueprint we have drawn for our future. We believe that attraction is a purely physical or intellectual phenomenon. We think it is just a matter of matching personalities and finding common ground. Buddhist wisdom offers a completely different perspective. It teaches that the universe does not operate on random chance. Nothing happens without a cause, and no one enters your life without a specific condition drawing them to you. The intense magnetic pull you feel toward a particular person is rarely an accident. It is deeply purposeful. When you meet someone and feel an immediate, unexplainable spark, your mind might interpret it as destiny or perfect chemistry. But on a spiritual level, it is often something far more profound. It is recognition. Your soul recognizes a familiar energy. Long before logic gets involved, your spirit senses that this person holds the key to an unfinished lesson. This is the essence of karmic attraction. Karma is not a mystical bank account of good and bad deeds. It is simply the law of cause and effect. It is the energy we carry from past experiences, unresolved emotions, and unhealed traumas. When we carry this invisible energy within us, it acts like a magnet, pulling us toward the exact people and situations needed to bring those unresolved issues to the surface. This explains why you might meet someone who logically makes no sense for you, yet you cannot pull yourself away. Your friends might warn you, your own mind might clearly see the warning signs, but the emotional pull overrides all reason. You are drawn to them because your subconscious knows that through this connection, a crucial part of your spiritual evolution will take place. They hold a vital puzzle piece to your awakening. Sometimes, this karmic connection feels incredibly peaceful, as if two souls have finally reunited to support each other in a gentle, harmonious way. But very often, karmic attraction is turbulent. It feels heavy, dramatic, and all-consuming. We frequently mistake this intensity for passion. We think that because a relationship occupies so much of our mental space or brings us to the edge of our emotions, it must be epic love. In reality, that turbulence is the sound of old wounds colliding. It is the friction of two unhealed souls rubbing against each other. You do not just marry a person because they have a nice smile or a stable career. You marry them because they resonate with your current level of awareness. They perfectly match the vibration of whatever you are unconsciously trying to heal. If you carry a deep-seated belief that you must fight to earn affection, you will naturally be drawn to a partner who is emotionally distant. Your soul pulls you into that dynamic not to punish you, but to force you to finally realize your own inherent worth. The initial attraction is the setup. The marriage itself is the classroom. To truly understand how this karmic attraction works in everyday life, consider the story of a woman who seemed to have built a flawless existence. She was highly successful, fiercely independent, and admired by everyone around her. She was the anchor for her friends and the problem solver in her family. Yet, when it came to marriage, she found herself deeply bonded to a man who was emotionally unpredictable and frequently distant. Whenever he withdrew, a profound panic would overtake her. The confident, capable woman would suddenly vanish, replaced by an anxious, desperate version of herself trying frantically to fix the relationship. She spent years analyzing his behavior, complaining to friends about his coldness, and trying to change him. She believed that he was the source of her suffering. She thought that if he could just be more attentive, her anxiety would disappear and she would finally be happy. But Buddhist teachings invite us to look closer and ask a more difficult question. What if the partner is not the source of the wound, but merely the mirror reflecting it? One day, while seeking guidance from a spiritual teacher, she poured out her frustrations. She explained how her husband constantly made her feel unseen and inadequate. The teacher listened quietly and then asked a very simple question. When was the first time you felt this same way? The woman froze. As she searched her memory, she realized that this heavy, anxious feeling of not being enough did not start with her husband. It was an ancient ache. It was the exact way she felt as a young child, constantly trying to win the approval of a highly critical parent. Her husband was not creating a new wound. He was unknowingly touching an old one. This is one of the most powerful and confronting truths about marriage. A partner acts as a flawless mirror, reflecting the parts of ourselves that we have buried, ignored, or failed to heal. When everyday life allows us to wear masks of competence and control, intimacy strips those masks away. Marriage forces you into close quarters with your own unresolved fears. If you have a hidden fear of abandonment, you might unconsciously choose a partner who frequently threatens to leave, or you might become so possessive that you push them away yourself. If you secretly believe you are unworthy of love, you will attract someone who treats you as an option rather than a priority. The ego desperately wants to point the finger and say that the other person is entirely at fault. But the soul knows that the relationship is simply revealing the internal work that still needs to be done. The cycle of repetition, karma as a teacher, not a judge. When we fail to recognize our partners as mirrors, we often fall into a trap of endless repetition. You hear it all the time. People complain that they keep meeting the same type of person, just with a different face and a different name. One person constantly attracts emotionally unavailable partners. Another finds themselves repeatedly betrayed or taken advantage of. After enduring enough heartbreak, they look up at the sky and ask why the universe keeps punishing them. But here is where we must fundamentally redefine how we understand karma. In the Western world, karma is often misunderstood as a cosmic system of crime and punishment. People believe that if bad things happen in their relationships, they must be paying a debt for some terrible past deed. This creates a mentality of victimhood. In Buddhist wisdom, karma is not a judge sitting in the sky handing out sentences. Karma is a teacher. And the universe is a profoundly patient instructor. It will present the same emotional lesson to you in different disguises, over and over again, until you finally learn it. The repetition is not a punishment. It is an opportunity for awareness. Think of it like a needle stuck on a record. The song will keep skipping at the same point until someone consciously lifts the needle and moves it forward. Your soul will recreate the same painful emotional dynamics in every relationship until you stop blaming the external circumstances and start looking inward. Changing partners does not break the cycle if you do not change yourself. You can leave a difficult marriage, pack your bags, and move across the world. But if you carry the same unhealed insecurities and the same unconscious patterns within you, you will eventually find a new partner who perfectly recreates the old dynamic. The cycle only breaks when awareness enters the equation. When you finally stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and begin asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" everything shifts. You begin to see that the emotionally unavailable partner was sent to teach you how to validate yourself. The critical partner was sent to teach you how to establish firm boundaries. The moment you internalize the lesson, the karmic contract is fulfilled. You no longer need the painful mirror because there is nothing left for it to reflect. By bringing conscious awareness to your unconscious patterns, you stop recreating your past and start consciously building your future. You evolve, and as your internal vibration rises, the type of love you attract naturally transforms with it. To understand the root of so much suffering in relationships, we must explore a profound distinction made in Buddhist philosophy. It is the difference between love and attachment. In modern society, we frequently use these two words interchangeably. We are taught that holding on tightly to someone is the ultimate proof of our devotion. We equate jealousy with passion, and we mistake possessiveness for deep care. But this confusion is precisely what transforms a beautiful connection into a heavy burden. There is a well-known Zen story about a young couple who traveled to a monastery to seek the guidance of a wise teacher. They loved each other deeply, yet their relationship had become a source of constant anxiety. The husband lived in perpetual fear that his wife would eventually leave him, causing him to question her every move. The wife, suffocated by his insecurity, grew resentful but stayed out of guilt and a fear of being alone. Their home, once a sanctuary, had become a prison of emotional demands. The teacher listened to their struggles, then reached down and picked up 2 handfuls of dry sand from the garden path. He held out his hands and told the couple to watch closely. First, he squeezed his fists as tightly as he could. As he did, the sand immediately began squeezing through the cracks between his fingers. The harder he gripped, the faster the sand slipped away until his hands were nearly empty. Then, the teacher bent down, picked up more sand, and simply rested his hands open, palms facing the sky. The sand lay perfectly still. Not a single grain fell to the earth. The teacher looked at the couple and said, "This is the nature of your relationship. Attachment is the clenched fist. Love is the open palm. Attachment is entirely rooted in fear. It is the ego's desperate attempt to secure its own safety by controlling another human being. When you are attached, you look at your partner and unconsciously say, 'I need you to stay exactly as you are so that I can feel secure.' You treat the other person as a possession meant to fill a void within your own heart. But because human beings are constantly evolving, Trying to freeze a person in time requires a tremendous amount of forceful energy. This creates an atmosphere of chronic anxiety. You live in dread of them changing, growing, or realizing they no longer need you. True love, according to Buddhist wisdom, is the exact opposite. Love is rooted in freedom and spaciousness. It appreciates the other person without needing to own them. Love looks at a partner and says, "I want you to grow, to expand, and to discover the highest version of yourself, even if that growth eventually changes the shape of our relationship." Love is not the absence of boundaries or commitment. It is the absence of emotional imprisonment. When you replace attachment with genuine love, the anxiety fades. You realize that you cannot force anyone to stay, but you can create an environment so beautiful and nourishing that they actively choose to remain. The spiritual crucible, friction as a tool for awakening. This understanding brings us to the reality of what a marriage actually looks like daily. When the honeymoon phase fades, the reality of merging two lives sets in. You are not just staring into each other's eyes. You are managing finances, dealing with bad moods, navigating career stresses, and tripping over shoes left in the hallway. It is in this mundane, everyday reality that the true spiritual work begins. Many people believe that if they are with their soulmate, the relationship should be entirely effortless. They think a spiritual partnership means floating on a cloud of endless harmony where voices are never raised and feelings are never hurt. But from a perspective of spiritual growth, a relationship devoid of challenges is a relationship devoid of transformation. Marriage is a spiritual crucible. A crucible is a heavy vessel used to melt down metals at extremely high temperatures in order to burn away impurities and leave only pure gold. The heat in a marriage comes from friction. It comes from the clash of two egos. The purpose of a spiritual relationship is not to make you perfectly comfortable. If you remain entirely comfortable, your ego never gets challenged, your patience is never tested, and your deep-seated selfishness is never exposed. The right partner will inevitably annoy you. They will trigger your impatience, expose your stubbornness, and bring your absolute worst traits to the surface. But instead of seeing these moments of friction as signs that the relationship is failing, Buddhist wisdom invites us to see them as the very tools for our awakening. Imagine you are in the middle of a heated argument with your spouse. Your ego is flaring up. You feel the heat rising in your chest, and your mind is rushing to find the perfect, sharpest words to win the fight and prove them wrong. In an unconscious relationship, you unleash those words, causing damage that might take weeks to repair. But in a conscious relationship, that exact moment becomes a profound spiritual practice. You pause. You observe the intense desire to be right. You witness the ego fighting for dominance. And instead of reacting, you take a breath. You choose vulnerability over victory. You soften your voice instead of raising it. Every time you do this, you chip away at the walls of your own ego. Every time you choose compassion over judgment, you elevate your consciousness. Your partner ceases to be just a spouse. They become your greatest spiritual teacher, providing you with daily opportunities to practice forgiveness, radical acceptance, and unconditional love. The very friction that threatens to destroy an unconscious marriage is the exact fire that purifies a conscious one. Redefining endings, when karmic contracts expire. One of the hardest truths to accept in our modern society is that not all marriages are meant to last forever. We have been conditioned by cultural expectations and romantic fairy tales to believe that longevity is the only measure of a successful relationship. We are taught that if a marriage ends in divorce or separation, it is a tragic failure. We view it as a broken promise, a waste of time, or a personal defeat. This societal stigma places a tremendous amount of shame on those who are walking away from a relationship that has run its course. But Buddhist wisdom views endings through a completely different lens. It introduces the profound concept of impermanence. Everything in the physical and emotional world is in a constant state of flux, and relationships are no exception. Sometimes, a relationship simply completes its karmic purpose. The emotional debt has been paid, the hidden wounds have been brought to the surface, and the necessary lesson has been successfully learned. When this happens, the energetic tie between two souls naturally begins to dissolve. The relationship has not failed. It has concluded. Imagine a woman who spent decades in a marriage that eventually unraveled. She sat before a spiritual teacher, her heart heavy with grief and guilt, and tearfully asked how she could have failed so completely. She mourned the years she felt she had wasted. The teacher looked at her with deep compassion and replied, "Not all endings are failures. Some endings are the most painful and beautiful awakenings." The teacher explained that her marriage was a vessel. For a long time, it carried her safely across a vast emotional ocean, teaching her about compromise, resilience, and eventually, teaching her about her own boundaries. But once she reached the new shore of her own self-awareness, the vessel was no longer needed. To stay in the boat while it was anchored on the sand would have been to stop her spiritual journey completely. This shift in perspective is incredibly liberating. It allows you to transition from deep bitterness to profound gratitude. You can look back at a painful breakup or a difficult divorce and realize that the person was sent into your life for a specific season, not a lifetime. They were a spiritual teacher disguised as a partner. They came to show you where you lacked self-love, where you tolerated disrespect, or where you were afraid to stand in your own truth. Once you extract the wisdom from the pain, the suffering ends. Letting go is no longer an act of giving up. It becomes a sacred act of honoring your own growth. The final destination, self-awareness and inner peace. Many people spend their entire lives searching for the perfect relationship, desperately hoping that another human being will finally make them feel whole. We look for someone to calm our anxieties, validate our worth, and silence the quiet loneliness that echoes in our minds. But Buddhist wisdom teaches us an ultimate, humbling truth. Marriage is not the final destination. Awakening is. Relationships are simply temporary forms within the ever-changing landscape of your life. They are beautiful, challenging, and deeply meaningful, but they are not the source of your salvation. True peace does not come from finding the perfect partner. It comes from doing the quiet, often unglamorous inner work required to heal your own soul. The ultimate goal is to reach a state of consciousness where you realize you are already whole, completely on your own. This is why two people can endure the same relationship struggles, yet experience entirely different levels of suffering. The external relationship certainly matters, but your internal state matters far more. Who you marry and how you experience that marriage is always a direct reflection of your current spiritual condition. As your awareness expands, your relationships naturally transform. The intense, dramatic karmic attachments that used to dictate your life begin to weaken. Your desperate need for external validation softens into a quiet, unshakable self-respect. You stop choosing partners based on unconscious wounds and start choosing them from a place of clarity and freedom. You realize that the most important relationship you will ever cultivate in your lifetime is the relationship you have with yourself. The moment you stop abandoning yourself, you stop attracting people who abandon you. The moment you honor your own boundaries, you stop attracting people who violate them. You break the painful karmic cycles not by trying to control the world around you, but by mastering the world within you. Slowly, the heavy karma transforms into radiant wisdom. You begin to walk beside your partner not out of a fearful necessity, but out of a joyful, conscious choice. You love them purely, without the heavy burden of needing them to complete your soul. As we conclude this journey today, take a quiet moment to reflect on your own life. Look at the relationships that have shaped you, the ones that broke your heart, and the ones that continue to challenge you. Instead of asking why they caused you pain, dare to ask a more empowering question. What were they sent to teach me about myself? Suffering thrives in the shadows of unconsciousness, but healing begins the very second that awareness enters the room. Your relationship struggles are not punishments from the universe. They are profound invitations to heal, to grow, and to finally awaken to the immense power that resides within you. If this message resonated with your soul today, please leave a comment below with the word awareness to declare that you are ready to break your old karmic cycles. Share your own stories and insights, as your wisdom might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Do not forget to subscribe to the Buddha Coha channel and turn on the notification bell so we can continue walking this path of spiritual growth and inner peace together. Thank you for your time, your energy, and your presence. May your path be filled with clarity, and may your heart always be open to the lessons of love.